The airlock door hissed open, and 3 towering aliens stepped through, blocking my only way out. I had nowhere to run. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my own ears. I was standing alone on a station that did not belong to me, surrounded by creatures 3 times my height, and every instinct in my body screamed danger. My name is Daniel Hart, and I was the first human ever sent to meet the Thren Compact face to face. Nobody told me it would start like this. The tallest of the 3, a creature with rust-colored skin and shoulders wide enough to block a doorway, looked down at me and let out a sound that I quickly understood was laughter. "This is the great ambassador they sent us," he said, his voice booming through the translator device clipped to my collar. "It is smaller than our younglings." The other 2 joined in, their laughter shaking the metal floor beneath my boots. I felt my face grow hot, but I kept my spine straight. Showing fear now would be the worst mistake I could make. "I may be small," I said, "but I came a long way to stand here." "Small and slow," the leader said, stepping closer, his shadow swallowing me whole. "Your kind blew up 2 of your own moons testing weapons you could barely control, and yet you send us this, a creature I could crush with one hand." I did not answer right away. Something behind me had just shifted, and I knew exactly what it was. "You should be careful what you say next," I told him quietly. He tilted his head, amused, and that was when a low growl rolled out from the shadows of the cargo hold behind me. The sound was deep, ancient, and it did not belong to anything gentle. The laughter stopped instantly. Every alien in that room froze. Out of the darkness came a shape taller than any of them, moving on 4 massive legs, its claws clicking against the metal floor like blades being sharpened. Its eyes locked onto the leader first, then swept the room, sizing up every single creature standing near me. This was Kodiak, and he was not a machine, not a weapon built in some secret lab. He was mine, and he had been mine since the day I found him, half-starved in the wilderness reserves of Alaska, back when the old breeding program brought giant predators back from extinction, and nobody knew what to do with them. Kodiak stood 11 feet tall at the shoulder. His body was built from another age, a time when the biggest teeth and the sharpest claws decided who survived and who did not. He had grown up sleeping beside me, eating from my hand, following me across 3 countries because he refused to be left behind. He trusted exactly one person in this universe, and that person was standing in the middle of a room full of strangers who had just made him angry. "That is not possible," the leader whispered, backing up a full step without seeming to notice he had done it. "He is my companion," I said. "I raised him. He goes wherever I go." Kodiak moved forward, slow and deliberate, placing himself between me and the 3 aliens. He was not attacking. He was simply reminding everyone in that room who they were dealing with. "Command every gate on this station to open," the leader shouted suddenly to someone behind him. His voice had lost every trace of laughter. "Get security here immediately." I raised my hand. "Wait. Nobody needs to do anything. He will not harm you unless he believes I am in danger." "And are you in danger?" the second alien asked, his voice shaking slightly. I looked around the room slowly. 3 creatures who moments ago had mocked my size were now pressed against the wall, unwilling to move, unwilling to even breathe too loudly. "Not anymore," I said. The silence stretched long enough that I could hear the hum of the station engines through the floor. Then the leader lowered himself, not in a bow, but in the careful way a person moves when they do not want to startle something dangerous. "You brought a beast that answers to no army," he said, "and it answers to you." "He is not a beast," I said. "He is Kodiak, and he only obeys me because I earned it, not because I forced it." The tension in the room had shifted completely. Where there had been mockery, there was now something closer to fear, and beneath that fear, something like respect. A voice crackled through the comm system built into the wall. "Ambassador Hart, please respond. We have picked up unusual energy readings from your location." I reached for the comm panel, keeping one hand resting on Kodiak's shoulder to keep him calm. This is Hart. Everything is under control. Tell the council the meeting is proceeding as planned. The leader straightened up slowly, glancing at Kodiak one more time before looking back at me. Perhaps we were wrong about your kind, he said. Perhaps size was never the thing that mattered. It rarely is, I said. He extended one long arm toward me, palm open, a gesture I later learned was the highest form of respect among his people. I reached up and placed my hand against his, feeling the difference in size between us more than ever, yet somehow feeling equal to him for the first time since I had stepped onto that station. Come, he said, the council is waiting, and bring your friend if he wishes to walk with us. Kodiak huffed once, a sound I recognized as satisfaction, and fell into step beside me as we walked through the corridor. Every creature we passed stopped and stared, some backing against the walls, others whispering urgently to each other in a language my translator could not fully catch. The word of what had happened in that room was already spreading faster than I could walk. We reached a massive chamber with a domed ceiling that stretched high enough to fit creatures twice the size of the ones who had greeted me. Rows of alien representatives from a dozen different worlds sat in curved seats, their eyes all turning toward the door the moment I entered. Whispers rippled through the crowd like a wave crashing against rocks. At the center of the chamber sat the head of the council, a creature with pale silver skin and eyes that seemed to look straight through me. She studied me for a long moment before speaking. We were told humans were fragile, she said, that your species survives only through numbers and clever tools, never through strength. That may be true, I said, but strength is not always about size. She looked past me at Kodiak, who sat quietly near the entrance, his eyes scanning the room the way a soldier studies a battlefield. And this creature, it belongs to you? He does not belong to anyone, I said. He chooses to stay with me. There is a difference. A murmur spread through the chamber. Some leaned forward with curiosity. Others leaned back with unease. Explain this difference, she said. A tool obeys because it has no choice, I said. A companion obeys because it trusts you. Every single day, I could lose that trust if I mistreated him. He is not a weapon I control. He is a friend who chooses to protect me. The silver-skinned leader considered this for a long moment. And if he decided we were a threat to you right now, then none of you would be sitting here comfortably, I said honestly. But you are not a threat. Not yet. So he waits. A ripple of nervous energy passed through the room, followed by something unexpected, a low sound of approval from several of the delegates. It seemed my honesty had earned more respect than any show of force could have. The leader rose from her seat, taller than even the rust-colored diplomat who had laughed at me earlier. Your species sent the smallest one of your kind to represent you, she said, and yet you walked into this chamber with more confidence than warriors twice your size. Confidence is not about height, I said. It comes from knowing exactly who stands beside you. She studied Kodiak once more, and for the briefest moment, something like admiration crossed her features. Then let it be known across every world represented here today. The humans do not send their strongest warriors to greet us. They send those who understand true strength, the kind built on trust rather than fear. The chamber erupted into a wave of murmurs and gestures I did not fully understand, but the tone had changed completely from the mockery that greeted me at the airlock. I felt the weight on my shoulders lighten just slightly, though I knew this was only the beginning of a much longer road ahead. As the meeting continued and delegates began asking real questions instead of exchanging insults, Kodiak settled onto the floor beside my seat, resting his massive head near my feet, like he always did back home. Nobody in that chamber dared come too close, but nobody looked at me with mockery either. Hours passed as we discussed trade routes, shared resources, and the possibility of future meetings between our worlds. By the time the session ended, the rust-colored diplomat who had laughed at me earlier approached slowly, his earlier arrogance completely gone. I owe you an apology, he said, I judged you before I understood you. It happens, I said. Just remember it next time you meet someone smaller than yourself. He nodded, glancing at Kodiak one final time. I will remember. Trust me. I will never forget this day. As I walked back toward the shuttle that would take me home, Kodiak walked beside me, his enormous paws echoing against the metal floor with every step. The corridors that once felt cold and foreign now felt strangely familiar, as if the entire station understood something new about the small creature who had walked among giants and left with their respect instead of their laughter. I reached the shuttle and turned back one last time to see dozens of alien faces watching from the observation windows above. None of them were laughing now. Kodiak nudged my hand gently with his massive head, and I scratched behind his ear, the way I always did after a long day. "Good boy," I whispered. "Let us go home." And together, the smallest ambassador in the galaxy and the largest guardian anyone had ever seen walked side by side into the shuttle, leaving behind a room full of giants who would never again judge someone by their size alone.